I have never been in love, personally. I don't necessarily think of romantic love as a first impression, rather. And so all I can go off of are my own experiences with love. The main form of love that I thought about outside of romantic love was like God's love. As cheesy as it sounds, but it's real. So I have a story for you guys. I'm Nigerian, and so I grew up like going to church. And so as a kid, I started off just kind of not really as engaged in church or as personally invested, just because I felt like I couldn't ask questions in church about scripture, about how things were done. And so I kind of shut it out. And so going into undergrad, I had that freedom to choose. And so at first I was like, turn up. I just got into school. But eventually, different things in my life that were going on led me to be in this place where I felt like I needed something more than what the people around me could give me as far as love went, really. And so a different chain of events led me to go to this like Bible study group that one of my RA at the time actually got me to go to. And so this woman had been trying to get me to go to this church group. She tried to bribe me with brownies. And the one night that I did go, I remember something I struggle with personally is anxiety. And at that time in undergrad, it was definitely at its peak. Like I got into that room and I was like, okay, this is different. Like these people got like the scripture printed out on like paper, and we got little pens so we could like annotate. But the verse or book that we were reading was Matthew. I went 2 times. The first time it was about anxiety. The main verse that struck me was, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? And it was after this verse about how we as humans, we try so hard to support ourselves and to be secure. And God is basically, or Jesus is in the scripture talking about, but look at the birds of the air. They do not stow away their food, or look at the lilies. They don't try, and they're still there, and they're still beautiful and living and thriving. But you try so hard. Why don't you think that I'll be there for you? And I was thinking about this and like, oh, this is kind of meta. I'm like, I don't really believe this real. I don't know, but this is interesting to think about. But I was thinking about that, like, dang, that really struck me where I'm at right now. Like, who have you by worrying? How much time have I spent thinking about situations that aren't in my control or that aren't fruitful to me ultimately? And so the next time I go back, it was again a really like fruitful conversation experience. And then like the verse there that kind of got me going was, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. I was just like, that sounds like a sweet deal. Like, yeah, but also like this isn't real. And so I went home that night, but I was, like I said, at my peak of anxiety and just kind of at my wit's end of like, I can't turn to my family right now in my time of need. I don't know these people well enough in my school to talk to them. So I was just feeling pretty alone. Yeah, that night in bed, before I went to bed, I was like, okay, let's try this little prayer. Like, okay, God, I'm weary and I'm burdened. Like, please, like, honestly, if I could just not be anxious, like, I could get through the rest of the school year. And yeah, I like went to sleep like thinking like, this is so silly. Like, what is this? And so I didn't really feel like anything would come of that prayer, but I just mind blown like next day when I wake up and I tell you I had not a one bad thought about how the day would go. And if you struggle with anxiety, you know, like you wake up already like, everything is gonna go wrong. These are the things that I have fucked up in life. And I didn't have any of those feelings that day. I like woke up, got out the bed, went to the window, like heard birds chirping, and I just was like, okay, wow, did God listen to me? I mean, this was just kind of the start though of my, I guess, relationship and experience with God. And I think that ultimately God is the #1 form of love. Because how could I guess, as a young kid, just kind of disregard him but him still be pursuing me? As through my RA, who was persistent in trying to get me to come to this group that she somehow just knew would be good for me. Or through those specific scriptures that were like, hey, wow, this strikes a chord with where I'm at in life. And so I think that inspires how I go about trying to love myself and telling myself that I'm worthy of you know, these good things, these great things, I'm worthy of love.